Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. It's your boy Shifty coming at you with another one. So we're going to talk about some breaking news. It just came across maybe 30 minutes to an hour ago. That is Alex Mack has officially retired from the NFL. We're going to talk about the implications for that and some guys who can possibly replace Alex Mack at the very, very vital center position for the 49ers. After just 1 year with the 49ers, but a fantastic 13-14 year career, Alex Mack has retired from the NFL. Now, for me, I'm actually really bummed about this because I was really hoping that he'd stick around for one more year. And why? Well, not only is he, even at this age, he's a solid center. He's not the best anymore. He's not like what he used to be, but he would have really, really helped, I think, Trey Lance in his development. And we know for the success of the team, Trey Lance has to be at least good. I think he's got a ton of weapons around him. Does Trey? A great defense to back him up, and what should be a much improved special teams. So Trey's in a great position himself to succeed. But if he had Alex Mack, that would have been just, the cherry on top, essentially, because, he hasn't really played consistent, live football in about 2 years. And if he had that center who knows all the calls, knows all the protections, been there, done that, that would have been incredibly beneficial for Trey. But look, we can't really focus on that right now. Mack is not going to be here this coming year. So let's talk about some of the possible replacements for Alex Mack. Now, to me, the most likely one is going to be in-house, and that's going to be Daniel Brunskill. So I know a lot of Niner fans would probably not be super excited for that. It's definitely not a flashy name, but I think it's someone that would make a ton of sense. Brunskill has been there. He's done that as well. He's played in a lot of games, a lot of big games. And if anything, even though it really hasn't worked out for the 49ers, what we've seen with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco is how much value he actually puts in the center position. One of the first moves we made when he got here, sign Weston Richburg. He wanted to get his veteran center guy on the team. That didn't really work out due to injuries. Then we bring in Alex Mack. And Alex Mack was, good to very good last year, I thought. I thought he really stabilized that position and was just a consistent, solid presence in the center of the offensive line. So he's gone now. So I think the closest thing that we have to that is going to be Daniel Brunskill. That would be if I had to put odds on it, my bet for the starting center for the 49ers this year. However, if we do have Brunskill starting, then that potentially leaves an open hole at right guard. So for that, you could argue a number of different players. I'd probably say the most likely guy would be Jalen Moore, rookie from last year. He played some games, looked pretty solid. I think guard is a better position for him. So that could be looking at an offensive line of Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Daniel Brunskill. Then you have Jalen Moore and Mike McGlinchey coming back from injury. Now, it's not a fantastic offensive line. It's a good one. And, of course, having the best left tackle in football definitely helps a lot. It's solid. If it's not spectacular, but it's solid. Some other options who could fill in at center. We have Jake Brendel, who's been around the league for a few years, been with the 49ers for a bit of time, and potentially what you maybe could make the argument is that Shanahan might want to keep Brunskill and McGlinchey on the right side. Those guys have played, side by side for a number of years. Obviously, you keep Trent Williams at left tackle, Aaron Banks right there. Brendel, although he hasn't had a ton of play time, is someone who knows the scheme, knows the calls, and maybe we, give him a bunch of first team reps throughout the offseason. We get him a bunch of game time in the preseason just to get him, up to speed with live football. So that could be another option too. Option 3 is going to be looking at one of the rookies. So Dohnovan West from Arizona State or Jason Poe from Mercer. So you know, it's asking a lot, I think, for any of those guys to realistically be the starter day one. I think it's maybe more likely as the season progresses, maybe after that bye week right in the middle of the season, maybe we could make a move to one of those guys if they're really showing a bunch in practice. But we'll see about that. I don't think that's very likely. Now, the fourth option is going to be an outside free agent. Now, someone who I was kind of banging the table for, and who I think a lot of people were as well, was JC Tretter. Now, although I've had maybe at least 4 or 5 videos saying that if Mack retires, let's get Tretter, but now I'm actually going to have to backtrack on that. And that's simply because reports have been out that with JC Tretter with the Browns, he had knee issues, at the entire time there. He basically wasn't practicing all week long, would play on Sundays, and he played a bunch of snaps, played most of them actually, but wasn't there for practice. And with someone having like a really, really young, inexperienced quarterback like Trey Lance, who I think is going to be great, but he's still very inexperienced. I don't know about having a guy who doesn't practice. You don't practice with him all day, all week long, and then you just say, hey, Sunday, make it happen. Possible, but I would think pretty unlikely. Now, there is one other scenario that I'd like to throw out there. Potentially, if Daniel Brunskill moves to center, could we bring in a free agent guard to maybe help out if they don't want to put, Banks and Moore at those guard positions? And possibly, now there's a couple of guys who are out there who we could maybe look at. One of them is going to be Quentin Spain. He was with the Bengals last year, was the left guard for the Super Bowl contending Bengals. Of course, they lost, but, he obviously has a bunch of playing time. However, watching that game, what Aaron Donald did to Spain was not good. So, but of course you would make the decision for the whole season, not just for playing the Rams, but something to think about. He's a veteran guy. He's been around, played a lot of snaps last year. The other guy who I would be a little bit underwhelmed by, but there's Greg Van Roten. He was with the New York Jets last season. Hearing from Jets fans, they really weren't a big fan of his at all, but he is someone who I think could be a potential signing for depth if we feel like, maybe if someone gets hurt. He's someone who would have played in Mike LaFleur's system last season, which would be very similar and comparable to Kyle Shanahan, so that's another option out there. Ultimately, I guess I just have to say, look, I'm not super stoked on this. It's definitely a bummer. Wish Alex Mack the best, but it definitely puts us in a little bit of a predicament. I'd be curious if potentially there is a trade that could happen, especially once Garoppolo's off the books, and maybe it's somewhat of a midseason trade, maybe week 4, maybe week 5 or 6, where we trade for a veteran center. If it's not working out so well, we give them a couple weeks and then the bye week to bring in. Now, I'm going to have to do a little bit more research into who are some potential centers who could be available, but that would be my best guess. So overall, I'm going to go with probably Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Daniel Brunskill, Jalen Moore, and Mike McGlinchey for right now. But of course, we got a long way to go. We got all the rest of OTAs. We got all of training camp and preseason, and hopefully some of these guys will really, really step up. Alrighty, guys, so let me know your thoughts on the Alex Mack retirement. What you think we'll do to replace him. Will we bring out some outside players? Could we make a trade? I'd love to hear some potential trades that we could do. Also, some internal options. What is your odds-on favorite to be our starting offensive line for week 1 at the Chicago Bears for the 2022 season? I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to have some more videos out today, however, so it's going to be a really good time. And I'm going to say 2 things, guys. The butt counts, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side.